Hello and welcome to Wiscombe Park in Devon for rounds 23 and 24 of the MCL Motorhome British Hillclimb Championship 2009. As you can see behind me, the competition runs are already underway. Let's go straight over to commentator Jerry Sturman, see what's happening on the track.
We're riding with Simon Durning in his historic 3.5 litre Brabham Buick. Massive V8 torque pushes the car along with straight and up over the tricky Bunny's Leap. The car goes light, and as soon as it settles we're on the brakes for the right left flick through the gate and up into the woods. Now comes a series of fast swerves up through the S's. Local knowledge really counts here as cambers and gradients switch first one way and then the other before getting hard on the brakes for the tight saw bench hairpin. It's very easy to run wide here and lose time getting back on the power as Castle Straight is a flat out blast between the banks with very little room to play with before braking once again for the tightest hairpin in British hill climbing, Martini. Simon clips the curb on the inside and sliding the Brabham out under full power crosses the line. Durning's Brabham sets the outright pace in this special invitation class. Here's Simon Harrett's immaculate Formula 2 March BDA. And now Firth crosses Formula 3 Ensign with Ford twin cam power. But right in amongst the historic single-seaters are the two minis of Adrian Langley and Vince Stone. Here's Langley charging over Bunny's Leap and up into the S's. This is still only a practice run, but he's working really hard using all the road as he urges the Mini up between the trees. Langley's Mini would later succumb to gearbox problems, but in the true spirit of hill climbing he was offered a drive by Vince Stone. They proved to be the stars of the class, eventually taking first and second places on handicap. And here's Stone now attacking Martini to set a time that only Durning and Cross could match in their out-and-out races. Bert Hadley was the Austin Motor Company's top works driver before the war, and his memory lives on in the Bert Hadley Championship for pre-war Austin 7s. Here's Daniel Cowley aboard one of these tiny 750cc machines. He's already well on his way to the win in the road-going section of this two-part class. Bert Hadley champion Terry Griffin launches his race-spec Austin 7 into Wisk Corner. Terry holds the class record in this evocative single-seater, whose origins go right back to 1931. He's unbeaten so far in this year's events and is clearly going for yet another record. He's got to beat 53.83 to do it, and it looks on. Just Martini to go. And yes, there it is, another new Austin 7 benchmark for Wiscombe Park. The pace steps up now as we move into Woolbridge Motor Club's Wiscombe Championship section. This is a committed run by Bob Rouse, who's really hurling his Fiesta up through the S's to lead the class after the first runs. But Den Conim is just 0.05 of a second adrift at the break. The Nissan driver is certainly one of the men to beat, and he's holding nothing back on his second run. He snatches the class win from Rouse by just 1/10 of a second. As we've seen so often before, despite the fact that its origins go back some 50 years, the Mini is as popular as ever on the hills. Most of them are front-wheel drive and still use the original A-Series engine, although many of the fastest ones now run 16-valve cylinder heads. This one's even more radical though, and so different it has to run in the Sports Libra class. Patriotic Scott Alan McDonald's version is powered by a Suzuki Hayabusa motorcycle engine, mounted in the back. It's effective too, and he howls up for the win in the Sports Libra class. Regular viewers will need no introduction to this man. Andy Russell is one of British hill climbing's staunchest supporters in his three-wheeling Ginetta G15. Here on his local hill, he's giving the Hillman Imp Power car everything, but as usual he's fighting a losing battle to get on terms with a lightweight motorcycle-powered opposition in the 1400cc modified production class. This invariably takes the form of Andy Griffiths in his devastatingly quick Caterham Hayabusa, and today is no exception. Griffiths is absolutely flat as he crests the brow at Bunny's Leap and dives into the S's. The Caterham is almost airborne as it swoops through the undulating blast through the woods. Griffiths is third overall in the class-based Formula 1 Fuels Leaders Championship, and he's looking for another win as he leaves the braking as late as possible for Sawbench. Power sliding out of the hairpin, the Caterham howls up to Martini. Phil Davies' 8-year-old class record is still out of reach, but it's a dominant performance and Griffiths only needs to take one run to be sure of another victory. Southwest Hillclimb expert Kelvin Broad from Exeter and his Ford twin-cam powered Lotus 7 are always a formidable combination at Wiscombe Park. Let's watch him in action as he tackles the S's. That's a good attack on saw bench, but will just 1600cc's of Ford twin-cam be enough to give him the edge in this competitive British Championship 2 litre class? Here's Bristolian Chris Child. He's had class wins under his belt already this year with his 16-valve Westfield Vauxhall, but they've been mainly on hills in the Midlands. He needs a good result here in Devon to boost his Leaders' Championship total. This looks quick up Castle Straight, and the Westfield rockets into the braking area for Martini. Sliding through the hairpin, Childs notches up another win, and Broad has to settle for second place. Yeovil Baker Bob Mortimer is one of the fastest Porsche drivers on the hills, and his 2.7 litre 911 is always a great crowd pleaser. This is a quick, tidy run through the confines of Wiscombe Park with no fireworks. Ultimate grip is hard to find on this comparatively little used hill, which is effectively just a front drive to a country house in the depths of South Devon. Bob knows that with Jonathan Williamson on his tail, one of the top Porsche exponents in the southwest, he can't afford to hang about. The Porsche's into the final hairpin, and correcting one last tail slide, he's over the line. Here's Williamson now. The multiple Southwest Hillclimb champion is pushing hard as he urges the big car on, using every inch of the road through the narrow S's. An extra 500cc's over Mortimer might just give him the edge as he gets the power down up Castle Straight, but into Martini, and the run is that fraction tidier than his rival. It's a clean exit, over the line, and the class win by a whole second. Alden Automotive boss Alan Goodwin built his eponymous sports racer in the early 70s to race in Formula F100. The car went to America, where it was very successful in long distance racing, before Alan brought it back a couple of years ago to run on the hills. Here's another sports Libra Mini. A familiar sight on the southwest motorsport scene, Saltash-based hill climber Derek Kessel's Maguire Mini has the conventional front-wheel drive A-series engine and gearbox layout, but mounted in a lightweight space frame chassis. Robert Eade and his brother Peter have campaigned a huge variety of cars over the years, from Westfields to single-seaters. Robert has held Wiscombe's 2-litre production sports car record for 9 years, but today he's challenging hard for 2-litre sports Libra honours in this motorcycle-powered DJ Firecat. Eade knows Wiscombe like the back of his hand, but today he faces tough opposition. That opposition comes from a driver who's had the class more or less to himself this year. Underneath the Phantom Clubman's car bodywork is Tim Elmer's Rick Fielding designed Imagination Vauxhall. Tim only wheeled the car out this year as an interim model to bridge the gap until his single-seater Dallara V8 is ready. It proved a good move, as he's rarely been beaten in the 2-litre Sports Libra class. After Wiscombe Park, he can carve yet another notch on his gear lever. 25 years ago, few drivers could match Charles Barter on the hills in small capacity single-seaters. These days he's equally successful in historic circuit racing, driving a Datsun 240Z, but now he's driving something rather different. Charles was persuaded to make a hill climb comeback by his friend Rodney Thorne, who offered him a drive at his massive 5-litre Pilbeam sports racer. Wrestling the big V8 through the gateway and up into the woods, it's clear that Charles has lost none of his touch. This is a big car to thread up through the S's, but after 25 years he's not forgotten where the road goes, and this is a storming comeback by the 2-times Leaders Hillclimb champion. He's into saw bench and ready for the high-speed charge up Cedar Straight, but things are about to go horribly wrong. The ever-efficient marshals and rescue teams are on the spot in seconds, but although the Pilbeam has suffered quite a bit of damage, thankfully, apart from a cut hand and a shaking, Charles is completely unhurt. But just what happened? Let's look at the accident again, this time from the driver's perspective. As Charles changes up and squeezes the throttle on the slippery surface, the big V8 just breaks away and he's now a passenger. Working away to the end, he managed to keep the car out of the trees on the right, but sadly it's the end of his weekend's motorsport. The good news is that the driver escaped unscathed from a big accident that once again demonstrated the efficiency of our ever-present volunteer emergency crews. After the break, we'll be talking to Charles Barter to get the full story at first hand. Join us again in a few moments.